I wanted to have this opportunity to talk to all of you about the new condo project that is slated to be built in 421 Brant Street in downtown Burlington. I think it's just time to sort of, hopefully all of us can collectively maybe speak up a bit and share our knowledge of what's going on in the downtown core, and maybe collectively we can all come up with something that is beautiful and vibrant and quaint and maintain our beautiful Burlington downtown feeling, and all the while still recognizing that we have to grow. I think I've got a unique perspective on downtown Burlington, and I'm going to tell you, hopefully be able to explain to you why I think I've got that unique perspective. In September 2008, I decided to move to downtown Burlington, and it was a very, very quick decision. In September 2008, my husband and I were driving to McMaster University to drop off Erin for her first day of school. And so there were a lot of tears and stuff, and we decided to have lunch and prolong the agony of saying goodbye to your kid, you know, for the first time when they leave the nest. And we went to Paradiso restaurant in downtown Burlington. Now, saying that, I'd never been to downtown Burlington before. As a family, we'd never been there before, so it was all new for us. And when we went to Paradiso restaurant, we sat on an outside patio there next to the flowers and stuff, and looking up at the Baxter building and just the whole surrounding around us. And it was just so cool. And I said to Ken, I said, "Oh my God, I love this town. I want to live here." And we were mesmerized. We said, okay, you know what? I think we can do this. So we contacted a real estate agent while we were there in the downtown core. Within a week's time, we had rented a condo in downtown Burlington. We had put our house up for sale in Toronto, and we didn't even wait for our house to be sold. We actually moved into the condo in a week's time. That's how much we loved it. So we put our roots down and immersed ourselves in the Burlington culture, hanging out in restaurants, doing the shopping, going to the local grocery stores, you name it, and feathering our nest, creating a whole new home in downtown Burlington in the Baxter. I was very excited. I really, really loved it. And loved it so much so that in a year's time, we decided to open up really downtown Burlington's first healthy restaurant, and called Kind Food. And we opened that up at 399 John Street. So we lived at 399 Elizabeth Street. The one block over, we're at 399 John Street. And that was just an amazing experience for me because I was able to walk to work. I could go there in the middle of the night if I wanted to, work on recipes, work to my heart's content, and absolutely love the vibrancy of what we were creating. And just this really cool, healthy scene and putting Burlington on the map of being the first vegan, healthy restaurant. It was just an amazing experience. So by being able to be so close and work there at 399 John at Kind Food, I was able to develop all these recipes for my next adventure, which was Kelly's Bake Shop on Brant Street, and we opened that up in 2012. So literally 2 years later, so Kind Food, 2 years later, open up Kelly's Bake Shop, and the rest sort of is history for how many people we sort of brought through the doors, and we still continue to bring through the doors every single day and every single week. It's a very busy place. So saying that, living in the Baxter, I lived there for 3 years, and then we moved over to Bunton's Wharf and lived there for 4 years. We rented and owned as well. We have this really cool perspective of what it's like to live in the downtown core, work in the downtown core, and actually open a business in the downtown core. So we have our fingers on the pulse as far as retail, as far as the economic growth in the downtown core, have a great pulse on what it's like to be a condo tenant, to be a condo owner, and what the people are like. What's it like living in condos in downtown Burlington? And I personally absolutely love it. We love it as a family. It's you get to lock your front door, you can travel, you don't have to worry about anything, you don't have to worry about maintenance. It's a great experience. But what I found too though is that everybody is like our age. So you've got the 55 sort of to the, so I say 50, 55 to 65, even some of the 70, 75-year-olds, which are awesome. And it's definitely buildings full of empty nesters more so than anything else. Everybody requires two parking spots. That sort of goes without saying. And we you end up developing a community. You end up developing sort of a really cohesive network in these condos, and it's kind of cool too that the way the Bunton's Wharf and the Baxter were built, where they almost were immersed in part of the sidewalk. So there isn't a balcony that's too high that doesn't allow you to feel like you're still part of the groundwork culture. And the Baxter, for example, it's 122 units and it is 12 stories high. The Bunton's Wharf is 14 stories and it has 60 units. And 360 on Pearl is 17 stories, and I believe there is 75 units in 360 on Pearl. So they're all a really nice, manageable size. It's not too big. You're going to know everybody in the building. It's not like there's going to be strangers walking on your floor. It really is a very much of a community, and I so love them. Love these buildings. The sale prices of them are anywhere from, say, a one-bedroom in the Baxter, which tend to be a little bit less expensive building. A one-bedroom around 700 square feet is around about $550,000. And you can get units in there that go up to about 1.1, 1.2 million. And in Bunton's Wharf, they go anywhere from about 850,000 up to about 2 million. And again, they're all 2 bedrooms in Bunton's Wharf, every single one of them. 60% of those units, though, funny enough, have 2 parking spots, and 40% have 1 parking spot. And what I have seen with many unit owners that have 1 parking spot is because they do have 2 cars, they end up renting a municipal parking spot offsite in the city of Burlington for a monthly rentals, and I think that's around $110 or $120 a month. So that's about what the going rate is now with downtown Burlington to be able to get a permit parking. So that's what they do for the overflow of parking situation. As far as visitor parking goes at Bunton's Wharf, there isn't any. The Baxter has, I think, 10 spots in the back of it, and 360 on Pearl, they don't, best of my knowledge, they don't have any visitor parking spots. So they have definitely had their impact on the downtown core for available parking that would be available potentially to retailers. You've got people that are visiting, say for having dinner at Bunton's Wharf with a resident there, and they've got to park on the street to have dinner with a resident at Bunton's Wharf, and the same thing with the Baxter, and same thing with 360 on Pearl. So with these units being, say, 60 are in Bunton's Wharf, and I said 122 is in the Baxter, and 75 are in 360 on Pearl, we are looking at the corner of Brant and James to be putting in 169 units. And with those 169 units, we are looking at, the approval is for 1.2 parking spots per unit. So which means some are going to have 2, some are going to have 1, some are going to have none, because 1.2 units, as far as I'm concerned, is not going to cut it. Bunton's Wharf is approximately 1.7 units per 1.7 spots per unit, and that was not enough. And the reason why I say this is that as much as we want to be attractive to bring in the young people and, say, the people that want to use bicycles and the people that want to use car shares and that sort of thing, is that I don't think that we're dealing with the reality of downtown Burlington, in that we are an affluent town. The downtown core is expensive. The average house price now is probably, I'm assuming, around 1.3 to 1.6 million in the downtown core. The average condo selling right now is around $1 million to $1.1 million. For us to expect a developer who is in the business to make money to build a building that is going to be suited to affordable housing or rentals is not doable. It's not feasible. You're not going to ever make a developer go and do that. So it's up to the city, though, if they want to bring in affordable housing, then buy the lot, build it yourself, and then put affordable housing in it. What we're also not paying attention to, too, is that with the shrinking retail space, which is happening underneath these two particular, or this particular 421 Brant Street building. Right now, there's existing 15,000 square feet of retail underneath it right now, where Chili's restaurant is and all the other stores. The proposed plan is for it to be 10,000 square feet of retail space. So that's going to be reduced by 5,000 square feet. Something else that the city is not telling us, the planning department, on November 1st when we were all there, and it's funny that this is what bothers me, is that we're so quick to think that we need to approve this, and we're not thinking about the long-term ramifications of having about 350 extra residents in that particular intersection, in that jurisdiction there, right there at the corner, the north corner of Brant and James. What the planning department, the city is also not telling us is that there is a second tower that has been approved. It's been, how do I say this? It's been not approved yet, it's been sold. And so the block at Kelly's Bake Shop, Elizabeth Interiors, that block has been sold. And that block is going to be potentially, they're asking for a 21-story building to be built there. So essentially, and I hope I'm making sense to you guys, is that there's going to be twin towers. So on the north corner, 23-story, the south corner is going to be a 21-story, and these two towers are going to be looking over top of City Hall. And they're going to be doing setbacks enough too that what they want to have is that particular intersection to be full of for animation and for events that go on or whatever, and they want to be able to hold it like in a little heartbeat in the center of the town there in that core. So you've got a 23-story and a 21-story, which is going to have total approximately, they think it's going to be about between 600 and 800 residents. And they're thinking too that these people are going to want to bicycle in, or they're going to be wanting to car share in, or they're going to be taking transit in to these particular high rises. And this is where I'm saying we're not dealing with reality, because I do know firsthand the cross-section and the demographics of what's going on in our condos right now we've got in the downtown core. It's only the well-to-do older people that can afford to live there. It's only the people that are empty nesters and maybe they've sold their houses or house, whatever, and because housing prices have gone up, it's kind of like the average house price nowadays is $1 million. It's what everyone's paying on homes now. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's the way that the market's grown. And that's not going to attract the 25 to 30-year-olds. 25 even to say the 35-year-olds. It's not going to be attractive to them. They can't afford that. They can afford probably homes that are, condos that are going to be anywhere from 250 to let's say 400,000. So we have to be very reasonable and realistic with saying what we think is what we want in there, but it's not realistic to ask for that. It's not realistic for it to actually happen. So, how do we make the downtown core more vibrant? How do we make it more attractive for the young people? I'm not really sure, because right now at my stage with Kelly's Bake Shop, where I've tried to make something that's so interesting and a really cool business and a great hangout, and it draws people in from all over, from Toronto to Ottawa to Montreal to London to Buffalo to I have people that fly in from Boston, Oklahoma, California. They just come for a weekend. They stay at the Waterfront Hotel, and then on Sunday they fly back out again, or Monday morning they fly back out again. But Kelly's Bake Shop has become this really cool destination. Kelly's Bake Shop has been told that we really have to be out in the next 24 to 30 months because that's when they're going to be digging ground. And the problem with Kelly's Bake Shop right now is that I can't find an available location for Kelly's Bake Shop to move to. Not to mention, I absolutely love where we are. It's this cute little heritage building. It's not getting zoned heritage though, because then if it's heritage, it can't be torn down. There's a lot of red tape that's attached to a lot of things for growth in the downtown core, and how hard it is to stay alive as a retailer, someone who's, put their life savings and their heart and soul into their passion, and all of a sudden now, you're taking this, you're kind of getting hijacked to have to do something that you weren't really planning on. It wasn't in the cards. It wasn't in your budget to think about that you got to go and move. And I want to stay in the downtown core. Aaron and I both do. We love it down here in Burlington for our business, but the reality is that there is no available space. All of the retail locations, like the majority of them right now that potentially come up that are available, are all owned by developers, or they're owned by people who are acquiring properties. So the next door, and it's like a monopoly game. And until you get all those pieces to the puzzle to finally have that whole block, then you can actually go and sell your parcel to a developer. And so this is what's been happening. And so the prices of retail locations, and when they come up for sale, they're going up higher and higher and higher in price, because it's not even potentially on my radar to even be thinking about buying a retail space in the downtown core. I can't even find a place to rent. So this is the problem, you know, you've got basically Brant Street where there's places to rent and function and open up a business in. You've got Pine Street, a few places, locations, you know, available, potentially available if they were viable there on Village Square. You've got Elizabeth Street. You've got Locust Street. Like there's not a lot of retail districts in the downtown core. So really Brant Street is where it is, and it's where we want to stay as Kelly's Bake Shop. But like I said, anything that potentially would even come available is owned by a developer or by a landlord that is looking at acquiring all of his monopoly pieces to sell off to a developer, and hence not giving long leases. So it's not prudent sense, and it doesn't make sense at all for a retail owner to, you know, go into a place and do another 3 to 4 year lease, because it's an expensive to do a build out. You know, you're spending $200,000-$300,000 to do a build out, to build a bake shop, to build a clothing store, to build a coffee shop, whatever. But if you've got a very short lease, you're not making any money. So this is what's happening in the downtown core right now, and this is all I wanted to discuss, was the lack of parking, and parking is a massive issue in the downtown core. And as much as we're trying to pretend that it's not, and we're trying to encourage people to bicycle, we're trying to encourage them to use transit, we're trying to encourage them to use GO Train, it's not happening right now, and absolutely could happen in about 10 years' time. But in this window of pain, I call it, like we've got the 0 to 10 years, this transition period. You know, what are you going to do with these people that are 50, 60, 65 years old? Sorry, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70 years old, that are empty nesters. They want to go to condo living. They want 2 parking spots. That is a given. As a woman, I will never give up my car. I love my independence. I want to be able to drive to Oakville. I want to be able to drive to Toronto and visit my mom. I want to drive to Hamilton. I want to go and drive and meet my girlfriend for lunch. And, you know, I want to go hiking, but maybe the drive is far. You know, I don't bicycle the streets. Personally, for myself, I just find them a little bit scary, but that's just me. But, you know, I'm not going to go and bicycle to Toronto. I'm not going to take a GO Train to the beaches in Toronto. I'm going to drive to Toronto. So, I think this is the reality of it, that we're in this core of downtown Burlington that doesn't have all of the amenities available to us to grocery shop, to do all of our clothes shopping, to do all of our cupcake shopping, to do all of our ice cream shopping, whatever. We don't have everything there. We don't have all the restaurants. You know, if you want to do the restaurant scene now, so many people are going to Hamilton because the scene is so cool and different and wild. You know, Burlington's got some great restaurants, but it's like, what's attractive in Hamilton for these 25 to 35-year-olds is there's a music scene, there's the art crawls, there's these, you know, coffee shop on every corner from the St. James to, you know, there's Detour in Dundas, there's this, you know, there's all these cool Mulberry Cafe. There's really some neat stuff happening in Hamilton, and it's very vibrant, and it's attracting that age group. What Burlington is attracting is the older generation, and there's anything wrong with that. The older generation has the money to afford these particular condos. So it's all I kind of wanted to say, was that what my experience is and what I see every day, I'm very worried about the density that we're bringing into the corner of Brant and James. I'm very, very worried about having a high rise, you know, a 23-story, a 21-story that's right there at Brant and James, because they are intimidating. They are overwhelming. I've lived in 14-story buildings. I've lived in 12-story buildings, and I know how they feel. I know you still can get a sense of community from it. I know when you've got those tiered balconies coming down off of the Baxter, that you actually still, on every single balcony, even if you're on the 7th, 8th, 9th floor, you still feel like you're part of something, because the way that they terrace down, you're seeing people, you're able to touch the ground. It's a very grounding feeling. There's a psychological profiling with what it's like to be next to a building that's 23 stories high, and how we actually start feeling a lot of anxiety. So, you know, this is why we've left the hustle of Toronto. We've left that hustle of the high rises, because we want to be part of something that's grounding and different. We want that connection with each other. We so desperately want a connection. So how do we accomplish that? I suggest that we don't make the stories that high, but Again, I don't know if it's too late to change it because I know it's precedent setting, and 421 Brant Street, whatever is decided there and approved there is going to be approved for the block where Kelly's Bake Shop is. It's a given. And are we prepared for that? You know, are we prepared for then, if that's a precedent setting for that, then what's going to happen at the corner of Brant and Lakeshore, where the old Royal Bank building is, because that whole block now is owned too by a developer. And then that's a matter of time. Is that going to be, again, 23 stories? You know, and we've got all these little hubs, these corners, and we have to pay attention to what we're approving for one, we're going to have to approve for another. And I think that if the Molinaros could do Bunton's Wharf and the Baxter back 10, 12 years ago, and they're 12 stories and 14 stories respectively, that there's no reason why that can't still be the benchmark of what we're approving, because it's livable, it's quaint, it makes you feel good. You know, if you envision where you would want to, you know, spend a Sunday afternoon with your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and you say, you know, let's go for a walk, let's go and hang out in a town, let's go for a glass of wine on a wine bar somewhere on a patio. You know, if you want to stroll some streets, you know, where do you get excited going? Is it, you know, Bloor West Village, the beaches? Is it Niagara on the Lake? Is it Unionville? Is it, you know, St. Jacobs, Elora? Is it Forest Hill Village, Bloor West Village? Yeah, sure. You know, all those places, it's all low rise. It makes you feel good. You're feeling you're connected with something. There's that, it's not intimidating. I would never say, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Square One, that intersection where they're like 45-story towers. And it's like, you're part of like outer space. It just feels strange. I wouldn't say that I'm going to go to the financial district of downtown Toronto and be on Bay Street and University Avenue and have all those high rises around me. Those make me feel anxious. You know, even the Queen's Quay makes me feel that, because the Queen's Quay of Toronto is, you know, tower after tower after tower, and the retail's gone there because retailers don't want to be at the bottom of a high rise. Case in point, Pearl and Pine, our lovely senior residence that is at the corner of Pearl and Pine. They've had their retail up for lease since the day it opened, and don't quote me on this, but I think that they've been there for about 3 years now, and they can't get one person to take over those retail locations. Why is that? Because we all want uniqueness. We all want differentness. We all want this quaintness. We all want something that's just like us, something so different. We don't want to be part of a generic system. It's like, why do people choose to come to downtown Burlington to shop and stroll the streets instead of going to Mapleview Mall? They do because they don't want to be part of the generic big box stores. They don't want to be part of a mall. They don't want to be part of the, like that, you know, it's just same after same after same after same. In downtown Burlington, we get this uniqueness. We've got Wendell Clark's, we've got The Coop, we've got Scrivener's, we've got Joelle's, we've got Centro's, we've got all these really neat little stores that all have their unique identity. But you're not going to get that at the bottom of a high rise. So that's kind of all I really want to say. It's kind of my dilemma that I'm in with Kelly's Bake Shop. I'm hoping that we're going to find our way through this. I'm hoping that we get to stay in downtown Burlington. I'm hoping that things work out for all of us. I'm hoping that Marianne Mead Ward and Rick Goldring can push forward and try to do their part to maybe try to talk people into reconsidering having something that is just so high. And do developers need to build something that high? And again, I don't know this answer, but do they need to build something that high to make enough money to do it? Because with Bunton's Wharf being only 14 stories and the Baxter being 12 stories and so lovely to be around, did the Molinaros make money in those buildings? And I'm assuming they did, or else they wouldn't be doing it again. You know, they're in the condo business. So do you need to build 23 stories to make excessive money? Or just enough money? Or does it become greedy money? And at what price are we paying for this, guys? That's all. We're never going to be able to change what we've got. 100 years from now, we'll still be looking at those towers. Well, I won't, because I'll be 154 years old. But my great-great-great-grandchildren might be. And I think that what we're all looking for on this planet more than anything else is a true connection with each other, a true connection with our neighbors, a true connection with, hanging out on patios and strolling the streets and having coffee shops and everything that's so unique, and, would my business be the same if it was underneath a 23-story building? Absolutely not. Kelly's Bake Shop is what it is because it's in a heritage building. It's this beautiful white frame thing, and it's got a second story, and it's cute, and it's got pink lights, and it's just something that's so unique. Would Tamp Coffee be so popular if he wasn't in Village Square and on Brant Street with his own unique frontage? Of course not. Jimmy rocks it because it's so different. Village Cigar, same thing. Hey Peachy, our pizzeria restaurant, same thing. Joelle's, she's got to have her beautiful, signage and her great font. And Centro's is gorgeous, because it's so unique. We're all unique. But we're going to lose it when we have something so high that's over us and we lose that connection. I read a story and a study, and it was very interesting. That as soon as we hit the 5th floor of a condominium, the 5th floor is still able to ground itself to a sidewalk. Anything above the 5th floor and higher, say 6th, 7th, 8th floor, you're standing on the balcony, you have a very difficult time immersing yourself and grounding yourself to the cement, to the sidewalk. You actually feel very disconnected, and it's proven that it's a separate world from the 6th floor up. So it's like a floating world. So let's say the 6th to the 12th floor, 6th to the 14th floor in Bunton's Wharf, you actually feel more disconnected from the downtown ground. You don't feel grounded anymore. So on the 5th floor, you can still yell and say, hey, Johnny, let's meet for a coffee, or, whatever. You're still able to reach out and be a part of the ground. You're able to see people. You're able to make eye contact. Go higher up, you're not able to. And so what happens is that those people end up being more shut-ins. They end up being very disconnected. They end up being very disconnected to what's actually happening in the heartbeat of the town. And it was an interesting study. And I'm paying heed to that because I have lived in condos myself, like I said, firsthand at Bunton's Wharf and the Baxter for almost 8 years. And I know the people there, I know the residents there, I know their needs there, I know the expenses there. Got to think about this too. For condo dwelling, there's maintenance fees and condo fees. So even if these prices of these condos at 421 Brant Street are going to say start at, and I'm just guessing, 500 to 600,000 for very small units, they're going to be about 600 square feet, I'm sure, for that price. You're still going to have condo fees, maintenance fees. And these are all fees, these are all expenses that is very hard for these 25 to 35-year-olds to afford. And with the mortgages changing the basis of getting approvals January 1st, that is going to change a lot. That's going to definitely change the 25 to 30-year-olds, what they're able to afford. So I think that we need to look at all of this and let's see if we can keep our retail vibrant. Let's see if we can keep it, something so special and so unique, because downtown Burlington has so much potentially to offer. And I'd love to see us reinvest back into the downtown core. I'd love the city to reinvest back into the downtown core and not leave it up to the developers to decide how we are going to look. Let's decide it for ourselves. Let's create a brand. Let's create a strong brand. Let's create what our vision is going to be for this downtown core, because this is what I think Burlington is lacking. It's like I equate it to what, say, Kelly's Bake Shop is. And, Kelly's Bake Shop has a certain Pantone pink color, right? That's our Kelly's pink. We've got our logo. We've got our brand package. We've got certain font to use. We've got certain size font to use. It gets used in certain graphics with certain marketing material. And if we all of a sudden decide to start using lime green or a deep turquoise, and we would know, okay, that's not the brand, like bring it back in again. No, we're using this pink, and our secondary colors are burgundy and navy and silver. We have certain things that we do that are conducive to our brand. There's no margin of error. There's no thing to think about. There's nothing to think about. There's no thing to ever consider you're either black or it's white, we know is part of our brand, then we make that decision to go forward with that particular path, staying on our path. But it's like Burlington doesn't have that clear-cut view. We don't have a brand package in this town. We don't have a strong brand package. We don't have that view, that vision of how we are supposed to be on that particular path. And so we know that if someone says, oh, I want to do a 23-story building, or I want to do a 48-story building, or I want to, I don't know, tear down this heritage building. You would say, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. You would very clear on what you want this downtown core to be, where you want the vibrancy to come from. What is our demographics? Like right now, who lives in the downtown core? We know that they're older people. We know that they can afford it. We know that we are an expensive town to live in. So we can't ignore these incredibly hitting us right between the eyes factors. And I'm hoping we get this brand package together really soon, because then it will allow retailers to grow. We can evaluate where we want to be, what corner, what is there going to be construction soon? What kind of road's going to come in here? Is a parking lot going to get demolished beside you? So then you can actually plan ahead saying, do I want to put up with that construction or not? There's all these factors that retailers have to put up with in the downtown core. And all we want is the truth and transparency to see how we can grow, because we know that this is what's bringing the vibrancy into the downtown core. I love Burlington. I love downtown Burlington a lot. Like I said, in a week's time, I decided to move here. And I don't know if many of you can say that you did that. In 1 week's time, I was living in downtown Burlington from Toronto, and I had not even sold our house yet. And I've never regretted it. But right now, I am a little bit grateful for all of my experiences, but I'm regretting where we are right now. I'm regretting where Kelly's Bake Shop is right now. I'm just sad. And I'm hoping that we can just come up with really a great plan for all of us to survive and thrive. Thanks for listening to me. And I hope you attend November 13th council meeting at the council chambers at 6:30. There'll be a big vote that night. And if you do want to talk that evening, please be sure to register. Go on to burlington.ca, and there will be a registration form that you have to fill out, and it has to be completed by noon the day before November 13th. So by noon on November 12th, you have to do it. I'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.